That's good. All right, all right. I'm gonna get this started here. Okay, I'm Bradley Thomas, and this is the Art of Changing Your Life. And this is the Take the Road to Freedom Summit. And today, my guest is Honoree Corder. And for over 15 years, she has passionately served professionals, entrepreneurs as their coach, mentor, and strategic advisor. She empowers others to shed their limiting beliefs, dream big, and go for what they truly want. Welcome, Honoree. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. So we're here, and I'm doing my next interview series, and I'm talking and trying to inspire others to find their purpose, because I believe once you know your purpose, it's
Yeah.
easier to reach your goals. And I know you're all about goals, and so I wanted to, tell the people who are watching today, how did you find your purpose, and if you can describe, what your purpose is and the
Sure.
story that led you to that.
Sure. So I think my purpose actually found me. I believe that my purpose is to inspire people to live the life that they really want to live, not the life that they've been told they're supposed to live,
Yeah.
and to help them break through any limiting beliefs and blocks and barriers that are in their way, and to help them to live into that. I think the very first thing I can remember that gave me the inclination was I had a friend who I guess he had a crush on me at one time, and there was a gal he worked with that had a crush on him, and I guess he would go to work and talk about me all the time. This is years and years and years ago, and I had been a runner when I was growing up. I'd run a few marathons, and I guess she decided that that impressed him so much that I could run marathons that she would go and run a marathon. And then she did, and 2 weeks later, she was in a devastating car accident. And the doctor said, "You actually survived the car accident because you were in such great physical health." And so I met her at a party after that, and she said, "You kind of saved my life." She said, "You said that I could run a marathon." I had actually had a conversation with her prior to that saying, "How did you run the marathon?" before she had run the marathon. And I said, "Well, anybody can do anything, right? All you have to do is like run to the mailbox today and then run to the next mailbox tomorrow, and then you keep doing that, and eventually you'll run a marathon. You just kind of increase, the adage is, you're going to run a half marathon, right? The adage is you don't
Yeah.
increase any more than 10% per week." So I just told her that basic principle of training so that you don't tax the body to injury. And she said, "You literally saved my life." She said, "The voice in my head telling me I could do it, which was my voice in her head, was louder than her voice saying that she couldn't do it." So
All
that was my
right.
very first inkling that I could inspire someone to do something that they didn't think they could do. And then I kept having things like that happen throughout my life until I finally just decided that maybe there was something to it, A, and B, maybe I could get paid for it.
That's a good part.
Shut up. That would be awesome. And here we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's really, mine's a little different. Is that I didn't realize I was going about it trying to tell others in my smart alecky way that they can do anything, and they just didn't believe me. I used to tell people I'd be at a party, and they would be like, "I want to do this and I want to do that, but I can't do X, Y, and Z part of it." And I was like, "Well, no, you can't. You not with that attitude, you can't get there." And that's where I kind of left it. And that was,
That's awesome.
and well, I wasn't even thinking at that point that I could make money inspiring others to do things.
Sure.
And it took several years to get there. But now, now I'm on the forefront, and I just went out a couple weeks ago to go get my life coaching certification, so I can help people in a framework that actually empowers them to go out and change their life on their own.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so that's what this whole thing is about, is inspiring others to find their purpose. So what was there something underneath that that kept calling you, that you listened to, that was like an aha moment of like, oh, I should really do this, outside of that story? Because some people, I think at least with me, it's taken a lot longer than just one story. It's like multiple times.
Sure. Like I said, there were several incidents like that where people would come back to me and say, You encouraged me to do something and I did it. You said I could do something and I did it. I actually encouraged someone to write a book actually long before I wrote a book. I had a girlfriend of mine who was in the Navy and she would write these emails and she titled them Messages from the Sea. And I
Yeah.
said, you need to compile all of those into a book. And she did. And she was like, I was never going to be an author, and here I am an author. I had probably dozens of those types of stories before it became apparent to me based on circumstances that I actually needed to turn it into a career. I actually needed to be a business coach and I needed to help people to build businesses that would support the lifestyle that they wanted. So I just kept having those types of things happen in conversation. And so finally I had a coach and she said, you need to do this. And she gave me, like, I like your word, framework, right? Because you're working within boundaries and questions to encourage and inspire others. That's what I was doing. So I actually hung out my shingle and became a business coach.
Yeah, that's for me when I was trying to do that, it was I wasn't I was putting some of it more on me, and I wasn't I wasn't in a space where it was really encouraging, just more at a party. And the big aha moment I had last year was like when people are ready for it, that's when they'll actually want to do it, and then they'll listen to you.
Sure.
And when in those moments of just at a party or something like that, it's just not the time or place. Sometimes it can be, but for me and with my smart ass, and just my personality, it just didn't work. But now I've identified how I can flip that and how to encourage people and still be my own personality and still encourage people.
Yes.
I kind of envision myself as a somewhere between Tony Robbins and Jim Carrey. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out yet.
I like it. I
Yeah,
like both of those people. So
yeah.
that's fantastic. I like it.
I'm gonna have to work on my height this year though, because I'm not, exactly 6 foot. I don't know how tall Tony is, but I know he's a giant man.
6'7". He's
Is he?
6'7". So
Yeah.
yes, think big. Close your
Yeah.
eyes and think big.
I'll get some big shoes, and that'll
Yes.
help, or maybe
Yes.
a ladder.
Yes.
So let's talk about the transition then. How did you go about thinking that you're gonna start making money inspiring others? A lot of people, it's not as easy to find their purpose, but once you actually do, and you're like, hey, I love doing this. How can I make money doing it?
Well, it was literally hanging out my shingle and charging for my time,
Hmm.
and then also writing books so that those who either could not or would not or were not ready to hire me to be their coach could still get a sense of my methodology, my philosophy, my way of thinking, and see if it was in alignment with theirs. And also, too, it's easier to afford a book than it is to afford a coach, at least initially, right? So,
Yeah.
so I had to figure out how to do that, how to write a book, and then how to write several books. And I'm still writing
and you,
books
and
for that
you
purpose.
and you've done that a few times now, and you actually helped me write my first book. And my book's not done yet, but I'm
Awesome.
really, really, really close. I did some of the last
Yay!
I did some of
Yay!
the thanks. I did some
That's
of the final
awesome.
edits yesterday, and I just sent it back to the editor to double check things and make sure
Awesome.
the rewriting I did looks good and stuff like that. And then it's off
Awesome.
to push it off to the publisher. And I guess I didn't think about it that way, but I guess that's a way people can rent you. Um,
Yes.
they can rent
Yes.
you in a paperback or in a Kindle or whatever
It
way
is.
they really want, or an audiobook, which is my favorite way to absorb books.
Yes.
So I guess if someone's wanting to get their voice out and maybe express their purpose um, on paper or Google Docs, whatever. What are some of the good tips you can give someone to start doing that and maybe start building their first book?
Gosh, I don't know that I can write my own books. I'm not sure that I could help someone because the process is all up here. I know there's some
Mhm.
people that are really great about taking what's in someone's brain and getting it out on paper. I think I'm okay at that. I think if someone wants to have a book, the advice that was given to me was by Mark Victor Hansen. I actually got inspired by one of the original mega inspirers, and he said if you have a presentation that you give, or I would extend this to if someone has advice that they give over and over again that people really seem to resonate with,
Mm-hmm.
to get that out of their head and on paper. So I had a presentation that I had given probably 30 times, and I just kept getting booked to give that presentation. Well, that presentation became my book, Tall Order, which was my first book. So he said, write that down. And that was actually easy for me to, because I had put the presentation together, and when I would stand and deliver the 7 points of the presentation, it would roll off my tongue because it was knowledge that I had. So I didn't have to consult my notes or think about what I was going to say. I already knew what I was going to say. So I just let my fingers do the saying as opposed to my lips do the saying, and that became my first book. Now there's obviously much more to it than that, and you alluded to that. There's the editing piece and the re-editing piece, and I think you're in the last 10% that feels like the last 50%. And
Yeah.
you're like, yay, I'm done almost. It's like, oh my gosh, like there's all those little details and those things that come up at the last minute to really make it a finished product. Not only the editing, but the proofreading and the design work and all of that stuff, right? So it's like having a baby. Only that when it's done, then it's just like having a baby. When it's done, the real work begins, right? You've got to market it and get it out there, and it becomes something bigger than you when done well,
Yeah.
when done correctly, right? But it really is. I mean, it's amazing how you can get someone's sometimes millions of dollars worth of knowledge in a $10, $15, $20 book. I think it's a pretty incredible thing. It's like watching a $100 million Hollywood production for $8. And people complain the price of the movie is too high, but you have this beautiful piece of work that's cost millions and millions of dollars, and you get to see it and be entertained for a few dollars. I think that's a pretty cool phenomenon.
Yeah, I think once you realize like how much work and effort goes into it, I didn't realize before I
Yeah,
had started down this venture of trying to write a book that it was going to be this much work. I thought it was just, I thought you just wrote a book and just poured out of your
it's
head.
just no problem.
Yeah, and you're just drinking coffee, watching, the birds fly by, and all the stories just come out.
That's right.
Um,
That's what it is.
but it's not like that at all. And
Or not at all, yes.
no, not at all. And I think what I learned is that you just basically pour out your thoughts, and then you have to go out. The way I did it was, with your system, the 100-day system, and I just wrote every day for 20, 25 minutes about whatever I wanted to get out then. And then at the end of the 100 days, I went back in and organized all of those thoughts.
That's awesome.
And then I handed it off to an editor. I said, please make this look better than
Make
second
this
grade.
work. Yes, and that's what an editor, right? There are different kinds of editors, but a good editor that does that substantive content editing will be able to help you move pieces around and make it what it is meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to touch a little bit back on purpose because that's what I wanted to. Is there anything else you can add from other people's experience, or maybe from your own, or maybe maybe from your kids too, if you're watching, that you can bring in how to find your purpose easier? I think so many people don't know it, and they just live their life as if it will never happen, and they don't want to try anymore. Is there anything they can do to listen better or become more aware? Because I think it's really about awareness, and when you start to
Right.
find
Well, I think it's a combination of what are the things that make your heart sing, what are the things that make you happy, what do you do that you lose time,
mm-hmm.
and then if that is not what you're being paid to do, how do you figure out how to get paid to do it? And sometimes that's a life coach, and sometimes it's a business coach, and sometimes it's a therapist, and sometimes it's a whole team of people
Yeah.
that help you to peel back those layers and strategy and implementation and accountability and all those pieces, right, that we provide as professionals. And it's also letting go of the thing that you're holding on so tightly to that does not serve you. You have to let go of the thing that you don't love to do, and being quiet and listening and moving toward the things that make you happy and moving toward the things that contribute to the world. I think everyone has a special gift. You know, everyone is special. Even you. Yes. And you have something and you have something to offer the world. And so playing small and playing safe doesn't serve anyone, most of all you. If you haven't leaned into what your gift is, then you owe it to your world, the world, but most of all you owe it to yourself to figure out what that gift is and then to go do that.
Yeah.
And I like you and I have very similar processes in that I don't have the desire nor the life to sit down and write a book in a day.
Mm-mm.
So I too set my timer. I do the Pomodoro, the 25 minutes, set the timer for 25 minutes and do all I can in that 25 minutes, whether it's the outlining or the research or the compilation or the editing or I call it the zhuzhing, which is the technical term for making it better, right?
How do you spell that?
Zhuzh. I think I spelled it once, Z-S-U-Z-H. Zhuzh.
Okay.
Yes, that's the technical term for finessing. Finessing is another word for it. So if you are having to pay the bills and you don't have a ton of time, so I was a single mom for a lot of years, right? You don't have time. You carve out time. You make time. You steal time from sleep or from other things. You can start to make steps in the right direction. And so for 100 days, you wrote for 25 minutes, but voila, you have a manuscript. There will be someone 100 days from now who will take that and run with it, and they will also have a book. And there will be other people who will mean to do it for the next 10 years. I have a client, her husband, when I met her 10 years ago, her husband was about 40% of the way through his novel, and I think he's about 42% of the way through his novel 10 years later.
Yeah.
I think people think that I think people think that success and big major projects are all done in one fell swoop, but I don't think that there are very many people, especially in our country, especially in America, who have a lifestyle that permits them to just court the muse and write books all day long and daydream and those types of things. We all have other things that we have to do, and then we have to say, no, I'm not going to watch as much television, or yes, I'm going to practice the Miracle Morning and get up early, and I'm going to write for 25 minutes every day, whether I feel like it or I don't feel like it, whether it's fun or it's hard, and I'm going to get this project done. But even if you only read 5 pages a day, you're going to read thousands of pages a year, just 25 minutes a day. So you can accomplish anything, even if you have to eat it one bite at a time.
Yeah, eat that.
It doesn't require a ton of time. So if you have this thing that you want to do, this purpose, then work on it for 20 minutes a day, work on it for an hour a day, work on it at night after the kids go to bed, get up early and work on it. Give up something that's not as important to you so that you can have the thing that's important to you. And then sooner rather than later, you will notice that it expands.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, what resonated with me just in that moment was like, just if you can't do it all the time right now, like you can't just quit your job because you got to pay the bills, take care of your kids, whatever. Just carve out that time, 20, 30 minutes, like you said, and just make it like your me time. In fact, I was just doing a coaching session the other day, and the lady I was working with, that's what she really wants to do. It's like now she's already launching her business, and she's into it, but now she's finding she doesn't have me time, and it's really starting to like eat at her and be like, why am I doing this? I became an entrepreneur so I could have freedom, but now I'm just eating. It's eating up all my time.
Well, she doesn't know that being an entrepreneur means you get to pick which 20 hours of the day you're working.
Yeah.
Maybe no one told her that. Maybe no one gave her that memo. But the thing is there is a period of time that's kind of sucky where you're working on the thing that you're working on now that keeps the lights on, right, and the roof over your head, and then you're working on the longer term play, and that takes up all of your time. And so there isn't a ton of me time or downtime, so you sometimes have to say, I'm going to shut the lid of the laptop, I'm going to turn it all off, I'm going to take an hour Or, earlier today, I was like, I need a break. So I set the timer on my phone for 10 minutes and I just kind of read a book for 10 minutes that was fiction. Shh, don't tell anybody. So I don't read a lot of fiction, but I'm in the middle of a really good book, but I only have 10 minutes. I would only take 10 minutes to do it because there are other things that were really important, but I needed that break. I needed it for up here, right, and for productivity, and then I could get back to it. And then later, right, you'll get back to it later, but there is a period of time where you're doing the short-term play, the thing that keeps the lights on and then the roof over your head, and you're going to do the long-term play, and that's going to take up pretty much all of your bandwidth. And just know that that isn't forever. When you're in an up place, you feel like you're going to be up forever. When you're in a down place, you feel like you're going to be down forever. When you're struggling, you feel like you're going to struggle forever. So just know that you now have the better part of a manuscript that will be revenue generating for you forever. It will open doors for you. It will give you the credibility of being an author. There are all kinds of wonderful things that happen on the other side of you taking those 2,500 minutes.
Oh yeah.
To write that book. That's a lot of time. But the time would pass anyway. Yeah. You're going to find yourself 100 days from now. Will you find yourself with a manuscript or without a manuscript, with starting your business and living into your purpose and your passion, or not? It's up to you. You get to decide, and you can decide right now to take that first step.
Yeah, and I hope people do. Whoever's watching this right now, is that I didn't think, if you were to talk to me last year, and if I would be an author a year later, I would have looked at you like, what? What's wrong?
What's wrong with you? What are you smoking?
I listen to books. I don't write them. And yeah, so it's been incredible just to take that, what you said, like eat one bite at a time, and just do a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And that reminds me, and I keep touching on this. I just talked to your friend Joe Sirio this morning, and we talked about this, and I think it's important because I think once you start going down that road, you get caught up in it. And you're just going down it, and you see, your goals ahead of you, but it's kind of hazy, and things start screwing up, life happens, and then you want to quit, and you want to go back, especially like the 80% mark seems to be a lot of people, go all out, and they do a lot of things, and like even with this book that I was done writing, and the first edit was done, and it's just like, I don't want to do it anymore, You're
the last 10% that feels like the last 50%, and a lot of people give up 3 feet from gold with no question about it.
Are you talking about last night's Super Bowl? I don't know if you watched that or not.
I did. It was a bit of a nail biter. See, my nails are all gone.
That's exactly what it seemed like last night.
My team was not in the Super Bowl, so I was not emotionally involved. But as a sports fan, you cannot help but get emotionally involved in a really good situation. And without question, last night's Super Bowl was very good. But you cannot quit. You cannot not publish your book now, even though you're sick of it and you don't want to look at it again, and you want to just either throw it away or put it out there without putting the finishing touches on it. I've been in both places. Yeah. So I know that all too well. It's like, oh, just forget it. Never mind. Just burn it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely putting the finishing touches on it.
Put the finishing touches on it and finish. You'll feel so good. You'll feel so good. And it's so tempting when it gets hard to quit. It's so tempting when it gets hard to give up. And that is the absolute last thing you should do. I hate to should on people, but it's the last thing that you want to do long term, because you'll look back someday and go, oh, I'm really glad I just, even if you don't look at it for 2 weeks, even if you say, you know what, I'm going to push back the publication date of this, or the launch date, or the ship date of something, and I'm just going to take 2 weeks and just go do something else. I remember when I wrote that manuscript that Mark Victor Hansen told me to write, I wrote it over the course of 3 days. I literally sat in a chair and wrote for 3 days. And then when it was done, I could not look at it again for 3 months. Like I would think about it. I would think about it and just get sick to my stomach and bleh. And then finally someone said, didn't you say something about writing a book? And I was like, yes. whatever. But I went back to it and I read it with fresh eyes. It took me 3 months though, because I did it in an incorrect way. I didn't eat Moby Dick one bite at a time. I ate the whole thing. And then I can't even look at it. I now prefer to write a little bit every day. And then when I get to that last 10%, that's the last 90%, you know what I do? I send it to my street team, which is my advanced readers. And I go, you guys look for the typos. You all look for where it doesn't work or where I forgot something or where something needs to be put in. Like, you all look at it, and I'm going to transition to the next book. I'm going to transition to the next project so that when I come back to this, I'm reading it with fresh eyes because I've had the slate wiped clean. But I don't know if you've ever done this. Like, I'll find a favorite restaurant, and then I'll eat there every day for a while. And then after a while, I just can't eat there for a while.
Yeah.
For a while. And so
I do
it's
that,
kind
yeah.
of the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same concept. It's like you get these cookies that you just can't get enough of. And like we have like 6 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, and so every day I'm like, oh, I want a Girl Scout cookie. But I know by the time I'm done, I'll be like, okay, it's going to be a year before I eat a Thin Mint again. It's going to be a year before I want to. It's the same concept. So when you get to that point to where you're sick of it, you have permission to put it aside and give yourself a little bit of a break, and then come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes and start over.
And I think that's true with a lot of projects. You might just have to move on to a little bit of different area, whatever the project is. You know, obviously you can't give it all up if it's something, you know, construction or whatever it is. But you know, if something as taxing and as writing a book, then yeah, you need to, you know, let someone else take a look at it. And it's important to surround yourself with other people who believe in you and are going towards the same, you know, types of goals and stuff like that. Speaking of goals, what's and I know you're really good at creating goals and creating systems. Is there anything people can do to help set better goals for themselves?
Set better goals for themselves. Bigger. Think bigger.
Yeah.
Whatever you think you can achieve, add another 0 or double it, or as Grant Cardone would say, 10x it. Right? Whatever you think you're capable of so much more than that. So
I think
I think that's a better goal. I think it's a better goal is one that when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I can't wait to get started, and I can't quite go to bed right now because I'm still excited. Or I have to go to bed because I can't stay awake. I'm tired. I'm working on my goal. That's a really good place to be.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's another thing you should listen for, is that if you have a big goal and you're excited about it and you're losing sleep over it, or you're working through the night, or you forget about what you're doing, that's another thing you should be listening for in your life that's towards your purpose, you know?
That's right. Yep.
And I hope that's what this interview helps people get, is that not only we talked about a lot of strategic stuff, but once you actually find your purpose, then you can start doing all that strategic stuff and start making it, which is pretty cool, especially now on the internet. Like 10 years ago, you know, we couldn't be sitting in each other's homes, you know, doing this.
We couldn't. I couldn't have published a book in Lithuania. I mean, I have one of my books in Lithuanian.
Wow, that's cool.
Yes, it got translated into Lithuanian, and which is really cool. I mean, their ebooks were just, I think the Kindle was just, I don't remember what year, I think it was 2005, 2006, right when I started publishing. And I remember one of my clients saying, I have the Kindle, I bought your book on Kindle. And I was like, what? I don't even know what that means. I think I saw Katie Couric 21 years ago, who was talking to her co-host, which I think was Bryant Gumbel, saying, can you explain what the internet is?
Yeah.
And now it's the kind of the first thing we do in the morning.
Mm-hmm. And they just brought that commercial back.
So
there is.
So there is so much that we can do now to earn money on our purpose when the purpose didn't even exist 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There was no print on demand. There were no audiobooks. There were no ebooks.
No, it was just one book at a time, one big book. And you had to go through the old process, which I don't even know about, but I know is a lot harder. And I guess that's when you sat down with your coffee in front of a typewriter, you know?
Or in a coffee shop with a notebook and pencil and paper.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think I would have done it. I have to say, I like the new way better.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. I do have
Yes.
to say, and doing the
Yes.
video stuff too. To complement that, people, if they're watching this, things to put together like this Google Hangout, it's not really that hard anymore.
Mm-mm.
It looks like this is, something that is professionally put together, and to say it is, I'm trying to be professional about all of this, but it's Google, and there's lots of videos out there to do it. So it's just like you can do whatever you really want now, and there's tools out there, and there's tons of people teaching,
Absolutely.
and you can just do whatever you want, and you can
Absolutely.
make money teaching people the same thing, and that's exactly what I want to do to help inspire other people.
Right. That's
So,
exactly right.
as we kind of wind down here, is there anything else you want to add on helping people find their purpose?
I think we have given them a lot of work to do.
Hopefully some of them will.
Yes,
go
I
right
hope
above.
so. And honestly, if someone does find their purpose based on our conversation, and I want to hear about it. So
Yeah, I do too. Email me.
send us an email.
Yeah,
Yes, we want to know. We want to know we're making a difference. So give us
Yeah.
an email. Yes.
Okay, so if there was one book that you've written, which one would you recommend, today to someone who's watching?
Well, the one that would fit the best would be Vision to Reality. So the one in my signature, right
Yeah,
there.
I
That's
would.
it.
I was
Yes.
going to say that one's pretty good too.
Thanks.
So,
Yes,
I
that's the one.
remember I was reading that one, and I think I tweeted you. Did I tweet you?
I think you did.
I was going through the mountains, and I was sitting in the back seat when I was taking my mother for her 70th birthday through the Rocky
Nice.
Mountains last year, and
Nice.
I almost dropped the book off the side of the mountain.
What?
But
No.
whatever. I'm sure I could have got another copy, so I can always
Yes,
order another one.
there are more.
There are
There's
more.
an unlimited supply. Don't worry.
Don't say that to the people that love trees. They don't unless they're gonna get a Kindle edition.
Kindle.
So
Kindle.
yeah.
iPad.
Oh yeah, you can do that too.
iPhone.
Anything really.
All of it. Audio. Yes.
Yes, we're nerds.
That's right.
All right. Any last words of advice before we get out of here?
No, but I do want to thank you for having me on this summit as well. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
can't wait to read your book. I bet I get a copy in the mail, right? A signed copy?
Yes, I am almost at
All
that.
right.
I'm almost
Okay.
at that point
Just
of getting it
saying.
printed.
Woo!
I have to
That's
get.
awesome.
I have to get your. You guys moved, I think, since last. Did you guys move last year?
I'll have to give you my new mailing address.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Super secret.
All right. Well, where can people connect with you?
HonoreeCorder.com.
All right. Cool. Okay. Thanks, Honoree. I really appreciate it. You have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye.